Welcome back to the Ellie Bond Show, coming in uncensored, unfiltered, and hot tonight with one of my favourite ever contestants on MAFS AU, Rich. Welcome, Rich, to the Ellie Bond Show.
Nice to be here. Well, I'm not there really. I'm here, but anyway, it's like,
I know it's such.
It's like I'm there,
It is. Well, you're there virtually, and we've been chatting behind the scenes about doing something together for such a fucking long time.
Yeah, we have.
And I always thought it was going to be on a stage, you and I in a motivational speaking capacity. So I'm absolutely delighted that I've flipped the script and you're here as my guest on the Ellie Bond Show.
Yep, that's good to be here. Why did we have we've had a connection. We haven't even met each other, but we kind of chat on social media and share. We like the same things.
We overshare, and it's actually a real privilege, I think, when I've said this before on my show, that through my Instagram journey I have met some phenomenal people that have trusted me with parts of their life that are really private, and you've done that with me, and I've certainly done that with you, and so it's just an absolute privilege to have you here. And I guess at the moment, Married at First Sight Australia is just kicked off about a week ago in New Zealand. It's a show that New Zealanders love, Kiwis love it. I think it's fair to say that around the world, the Australian version is possibly the most popular version. And so keen to do a deep dive into, I guess, your journey on the show and how it all started. I mean, at 60 fucking 2, to go on a reality show, I mean, that's pretty out the gate, really.
Yeah, I know. Would you want to know how I went on? Why I went on?
Please.
So I was 62. I was sort of back on the dating scene, yeah. So I was married for 28 years, and then I had a girlfriend for 5 years, and sort of over COVID, all that ended, and then then I was like back on the dating scene. So now I'm using dating apps, yeah. Like the first time really in my life, because when I was young, they didn't exist, and it wasn't just one app; it was like every app. If I do something, I do it. I don't fucking half do it,
No, you don't. So I had a conversation actually about dating apps about 2 weeks ago. And so when you say that you were on apps, how many apps were you on?
6.
And so what were the 6 apps that you were on?
Just fucking binge, this, that. I don't know what, the whole lot of them, whatever. I try them all out. And then I was going, and so when I first started, I turning up for dates, and I was all full of hope. And then I realized that you've got to, it's like a numbers game. You've got to do the numbers, meet the people, show up, do the thing. So I was doing that, and I kind of got the impression that everybody I met was a bit like wanted to run a mile from me because I'm a bit full on, which I realise now, but I didn't realise at the time. And I was like, what's going on here? So I was sitting at home with my daughter who I was living with, and I was complaining to her about it. And she said, and we've watched MAFS for years, my daughter and I. So she turned to me and said, well, why don't you just apply for MAFS, Dad? And I was like, yeah, right, Roxy. She goes, Dad, they'll love you. Apply. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. It's like, what are the chances? So it takes, 45 minutes, make a little video, fill in a form. And I applied and forgot about it. And then about, 6 weeks later, the phone rang and it was like, hi, we're from Endemol Shine. And we want to, it's like, and then we went to another, it's like all these kind of, like loops you go through. And I realized, as I was getting closer and closer, I actually had a Zoom call with Alessandra. She was in Puerto Rico at the time. And I'm like, okay, this is getting serious now.
Oh, wow. I love her.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to be on this bloody show. And then they asked me for my wedding ring size. This is before I was even confirmed that I was on. And then I got a call saying, you're on the show, Richard. Oh, congratulations. And I was like, yeah, right. Okay. And what do you say? Like, do you say that, oh, no, I was just joking. I didn't really want to be on it. Because so many people apply. They've got so many names on their database. The odds of me being chosen were I worked it out, was 0.03%.
Which is
So,
phenomenal. So what was the time frame from when you applied to when you actually got the confirmation that we want this
3.5
3
months.
months? Okay.
Yeah, 3 months. Some people were much quicker,
Uh-huh.
but I was 3 months. Yeah. So I did the old-fashioned thing, put in the application, was picked. There was nothing else. No one approached me. And when they said, yeah, I was like, well, that's what the universe has conspired to make happen. I guess I better roll the dice and give it a go, So off I went. And a lot of people were very unhappy about it. People in my life said, you're fucking mad. What are you doing, mate? Do you know what the show's going to do to you and all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, no risk, no story. That's the other thing about it. So off I went, yeah. That's how I got on. I was literally did the old school applying for it and got chosen out of thousands for some reason. But what I did do, I sent them a video. You got to make a little 60-second video of yourself. And what I said in my video was, I said, hi, my name is Richard. I'm 62. And I said, I am challenging you guys to put somebody on your show who is my age, okay?
Brilliant.
That was my sort of dare to them. I dare you to kind of lift the bar here, open your minds, and be open to the fact that people over 60 are also looking for love, guys. And that was my sort of pitch. Obviously, that worked.
And so tell me the selection process. Do they, before you are selected, do they check all your social media? Do they confer with family members? Do they do due diligence, I guess, behind the scenes before you're actually given a contract?
Well, I think they do some due diligence. I mean, they do. Yeah, I'm sure they check out social media and stuff like that, which they ultimately control for quite a while. But you have to do, criminal records and then all that shit you got to fill in. Like there's a whole lot of stuff you got to fill in. You got to be checked for health check, STDs, all that stuff. So they checked all of that. What they don't check, interestingly, is your kind of mental health.
Uh-huh.
State, condition. Do you have depression? Do you have anxiety? Do you have ADHD? Do you have dyslexia? Are you OCD? You know what I mean? Because those are the kinds of things that I think, in my season, some of the people really struggle on the show, including myself quite a bit, actually, because there's a lot of pressure. The situation is quite stressed and it's very artificial, really, all these cameras and people and so I was quite surprised about that. If you put people on the show that have mental health challenges, for example, that could really be a problem for them, and they never check that, never ask anything about that, which I thought was quite weird.
So you get selected, you get the call that they want you on the show, then obviously a contract. Does that turn up, and what does a contract with Married at First Sight as a contestant look like? I think lots of people would love to know. What are the conditions?
Well, I'll tell you what. So the contract is 37 pages long. Okay, that's the first
fuck.
Yeah. It's like a mission.
Uh-huh.
In the contract, they have this thing, and I'll just call it up here because I haven't prepared this. But what they have is, I've actually got a bit out of the contract that I actually wrote about. So they have what I call them they've got these clauses in the contract which kind of sum it up, really. And I'll just show you what. So they have on the first, they're 37 pages long, and the first thing you read in the contract, which is in a highlighted box right up front, I call them the 7 rules of the game. Okay. You may or may not be shown in a way that you consider favorable or unfavorable. You may be shown in a way you consider to be embarrassing. You and your partner may not result in a successful or compatible match. You may receive a lot of public attention, including on TV, in newspapers, social media, and by paparazzi and other commentators that may be untrue, negative, or unwanted. You are not guaranteed financial rewards or fame by participating. This is a program where the main goal is to find love. Yeah, bullshit. Your appearance on the program may result in others seeing or treating you differently in your personal work or professional life. You may experience these things during and after your participation in the program and its broadcast in both Australia and internationally. So that's the first thing right up front there. So you're going to go, oh, okay. But And people, I shared the contract with one or two people who said, mate, you don't want to go on this show. That contract is terrible.
I was going to ask you
You
about
know?
about that, about the whether you got a knockback from family and friends about appearing on the show.
Yeah, well, I certainly got a knockback from my ex-wife and my two older children. Yeah, they were like appalled, but I wouldn't even consider it. But and then I spoke to some people who kind of work in the industry and said, yeah, have a look at this contract. And they were like, oh, mate. But I don't kind of work like that. You know, the way I operate is I sort of, I see the unit. You can make a choice. You can see the universe as a friendly place or a hostile place. And I see the universe as a friendly world, as a friendly place. And I come with good intentions, and I assume that they had good intentions too. And then all that's in the contract, but at the end of the day, if I go in with the right intentions, open mind, open heart, here I am, that, you know, hey, what can go wrong?
So what do you get paid? Because obviously, two questions is that if you are on the if you're on the show for the entire season and you go right through to the final vows, what is the length of that time in its entirety?
That would be 3 months.
3 months. And so what do they pay you per week?
No, they don't. They pay you. They give you an allowance of $150 a day.
A day.
Yeah.
Okay. So then
so it's nothing. I mean, I lost money. I mean, I lost work. I had to turn down speaking gigs and things like that to be on the show. Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's fine. I mean, but no, they don't pay you at all, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at I guess let's go back to the beginning. You've got the contract. Were you excited about the possibility of meeting your happily ever after?
Yeah, of course I was. Yeah,
and then you turn up, and I watched the show where you arrived at the altar with my mother actually, and Mum turns 80 next month, and you were standing there, and obviously they referenced that that you were a motivational speaker, and I saw your face actually when Andrea arrived, and you looked incredibly happy to see who you'd been paired with. And so can you talk me through what it felt like for you when she arrived, the feelings that you had, excitement, were you nervous? Can you talk me through that moment and that evening that you first had when you were just married?
Well, I was very emotional, actually. That's how I react and things like that. So it was, you know, when I turned around and saw her, and then the wedding day right through was fantastic. It was fantastic. And all the guests who were there, they all got on well. My group got on with her group. And it was a really, really great day, to be honest with you. It was like, it couldn't have been better. It was it was great. It was a great episode as well. I mean, it was like a brilliant episode, brilliant wedding, the whole thing, you know. So, and there's a few on every season that I like that, and ours was one of those, you know. So it was a really great start. And Andy's she's a great person. She's a beautiful girl. She's got this sort of aura about her. She's a bit like I don't know, a bit like a kind of a fairy in a way, and she's got this bit like you, this sort of pink kind of, you know, what's it, kind of rose pink hair and the whole vibe, and you know, and it was just, yeah, it just felt great, you know. I was really at first really taken with her, and was really into her, very into her. Yeah, it was great. It was like, wow, you know, just this is awesome.
So then you have your wedding night, and then you all get.
The wedding night is good. Yeah, we stayed in the thing around the corner and some place and all that, and we chatted and got to know each other a bit, and that was great. It was wonderful, yeah.
And then where was honeymoon for you?
Our honeymoon for us was in what's it called again? I've forgotten. It's the Sorrento Hotel, south of Melbourne. What's that area called? Oh, damn.
I love Sorrento. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm so bad with names and stuff. The Mornington Peninsula. It was the Mornington Peninsula. So like you don't know where you're going on honeymoon, yeah? You've got to pack stuff as if you're going. So I packed like all my summer stuff, suntan lotions. We go to some resort somewhere, you know. So I had all loaded up, ready to go. And it was like, oh, Mornington Peninsula. It was like, oh, shit. It's like freezing, you know. So it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was fine. It was actually great. The hotel was amazing, and the honeymoon was great as well. It was all rolling on. It was beautiful.
So you come out of honeymoon phase,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you bounce into an apartment where you're living together.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And then this is, I've actually reached out to put it on my gram actually for people to put in questions, because this is just so topical at the moment in New Zealand. And so one of the big questions has been about dinner parties. There is just so much interest in dinner parties and what goes on, how much is real, how much alcohol is supplied. Can you talk me through like a dinner party and the rules around dinner parties?
Okay. So you arrive at the dinner party at about between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, okay, as a couple. And each couple arrives on their own. Because the idea is that the couples aren't talking to each other at all, even though we live in the same apartment, but we kept apart.
Okay.
Until we get together at the dinner party. And then it's all catch up for the first time. Yeah, that's the theory, okay? Although a lot of couples, hung out on weekends together and stuff. They weren't supposed to, but they do. So you get the dinner party between 2 and 3 o'clock. And let's say there's 10 couples and they have 10 tents. Like tents, yeah? Like 2 meters by 2 meters.
Tents?
Tents.
Where the fuck are the tents? We don't
see the warehouse. In the warehouse are these 10 tents all lined up.
Okay.
So you arrive and there's your name on the one tent. You go into the tent. It's just 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you sit in the tent for 4 hours.
Oh no!
Yeah, for 4 hours, and in the tent is a box, and in the box is some like chocolate bars, an apple, a banana, and a Sudoku book.
Any wine? Any alcohol?
No, hang on, I'll tell you. And a Sudoku book, okay? Like, that's it. No phone. You haven't got your phone. You got nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing. And it's freezing. It's winter, man. It's like the middle of winter. You're sitting in this fucking shit then you sit waiting, okay? And then all the couples arrive slowly one by one until all the tents are full. So you're arriving at different times. If you want to go to the bathroom, you have to ask permission, and a producer has to take you to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're not going to go and sneak in and talk to some other couple, okay? So there you are sitting in your tent, okay? Waiting for these guys. And then at about 6 o'clock, 6:15, they start calling the couples in, okay? And they come in different orders. They walk into the room.
They do. So the women always look really glamorous for the dinner parties. So you're telling me that they're sat in a tent with their glamorous gowns and high heel shoes on before they actually get taken into the dinner party.
That's it. That's
wow.
Exactly right. Yeah. So so they've got an order. They want the couples to come in. So then you go, okay, you guys, and so we go along. We get walk on. Now we're standing at the door that goes that slides open, and a couple walk in, going, So you're waiting there, and you can hear there's a few people in the room. So you go, okay, we're not first. Maybe it sounds like we might be fourth or fifth. What do you reckon? We're kind of chatting away. And you stand at the door for about another 10, 15 minutes, and then some guy goes, whoop, door opens, and whoop, in you walk, and we goes, here we are. Okay, yak. And then you have drinks. Now, by the way, I'll come back to the alcohol thing, okay? But that's actually quite interesting. There's drinks there. You have your drinks and chat, and everyone catches up, and all the other couples that finally come in. And you're there till about, I suppose, 7:30, maybe about 7:30. And then the guy comes in and he goes, dinner is served. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Do you think you go to the dining room? Oh no, back to the tents.
Oh no, you can't.
Yeah, for 2 more hours. Yeah, dude. So at 7:30, back to the tents until about 9:10. Why? Because they're doing the voxies. They're doing all the one-on-one interviews. So everything they're doing the drinks. Spicy, and if you were involved in that conversation, they'll get you to speak one-on-one to the camera, and they'll say, well, I see you just had a conversation with Jaden about this, so what do you think about that? And so they're doing the voxies. That takes 2 hours. Now it's 9:30. Okay, we've been here since 2 o'clock.
I'd be fucking hungry and very thirsty.
So anyway, so then eventually they go, okay, all right, 9:30, back in the room. So we'll get back in the room, and we've got to get into the same positions we were when the guy said dinner is served, okay? And then we go, okay, film. Then we walk into the dining room. So now we're there at about 9:30, 9:45, sitting down to eat. The food is there's no kitchen at the actual facility there. So the food is kept in this like van, thing. So the food's a bit cold and it's a bit like, it's not, everyone's so bloody hungry anyway. And then now, then we start getting served and now we start eating at like 10 o'clock, okay? And they will keep you at the table until they've got what they want. Okay.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah.
So what they want, because number one
What
is
they
that
want.
when I watch, and I love the dinner parties. I'm a bit of a foodie, but the food always actually looks quite edible actually. So when you say when you say that what they want, I am I right in saying that they're wanting some drama, some
100%.
some explosive antics?
100%. So
And-
they want, yep. So you're not there at the dinner party to talk about the weather or sport or politics or the usual things that people would. It's a dinner party where every couple has a go at the other couples. So, what's happening in your relationship and how are you guys going? Are you guys having sex? And what's happening here? You guys look unhappy. Imagine that. Imagine going to a dinner party with all your friends and that's all they talk about. You know what I mean? So anyway, the first dinner party, I remember when we were sitting there, we were all kind of, we're all new to this, chatting away and stuff. And at about midnight, I think, the two executive producers came in and said, guys, you're wasting our fucking time. You're wasting your time. This is a show. Get to the point. Stop this, pussyfooting around. And that was our first kind of wake up. We were like, yeah, right. So then we really got into it, But that dinner party ended at about 2 a.m., that one. But then we began to realize the quicker we get into it, the earlier we can go home. So some of them ended at like midnight, just after midnight, because we kind of caught it on that this was the thing. So that's the whole dinner party thing. It's just like so drawn out and it's so exhausting. You finally get back to your room at 2, 3 a.m. And then the commitment ceremony is that night again. Okay. And the commitment ceremony goes on till 3, 4 a.m. as well.
Oh, wow. So you have the dinner party and then you go straight into recording.
Straight in a row.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, So at the dinner party, they don't want you to get drunk. So if you get drunk, you'll embarrass. So they're trying to keep a limit. So they're watching it. Okay. And if people have drunk too much, then you get a tap on the shoulder and they switch it to water during the dinner party. So that happens quite a bit. But what contestants started doing was then they started taking booze into the tents. Okay. You're saying it for 4 hours. So they take booze into the tents. And we're drinking in the tents, okay? We still weren't supposed to. And I think the producers realized this was like, oh, this is not so good, So they started doing random searches in our bags. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we, so the next dinner party, the one after, the producer suddenly said, okay, bag check. They came in and they just took, and like some of the contestants, whiskey bottles and tequila bottles and wine, and they just fucking confiscated the whole lot, like naughty school kids.
That is classic. That is absolutely classic.
So pissed off. Some of them, like Lauren, remember Lauren? So Lauren really loves her wine, I remember Lauren.
So does Bond. Bond loves her wine too.
No. I remember Lauren in the tent. He was in the tent next to us shouting, I need a fucking glass of red wine. What's going on here? Give me some wine. She was shouting out, pleading for alcohol. That was so funny. Yeah. So they started doing bag checks, and then what happened was, okay, so they can confiscate the alcohol. So what contestants started doing was taking marijuana gummies.
Classic.
There was a whole supply of those going around, just to get, anyway. Yeah, so that's the dinner parties, and you're right. They want to get all the drama and action, and if they haven't got it, they just continue filming until they've got enough in their view, of what they want and what they need. And it's really crazy because when you walk out of the room, and you go back to the behind the scenes, the production center, like they're all there. I mean, these screens everywhere and editors everywhere, and all the producers are there, all the executive producers are there. The Channel 9, John Walsh, who's the head of content for Channel 9, one of the most senior guys in Channel 9. He was there every single time they filmed it, he was there
Wow.
watching, because they're really invested. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
it's a big show for them. It kicks off their year. It's one of their Channel 9's big bets,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's closely watched by everybody. All the experts are there as well, also watching. Behind the scenes, everybody there just watching, and they're obviously looking for what's the story, what's the angle, what's this, what's that, and occasionally they'll pull someone out, for some reason, and then they'll come back in, and obviously they try to say, hey, I think you should say this and you should raise this, and they try to poke the bear, if you know what I mean, all the time. And I in the dinner parties, I mean, I sat literally, Andy and I, right at the end of the table. Like, we weren't, they know where the drama is going to come from, so they put them right in the middle of the table. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the whole thing's, in that way, it's very planned.
So you and Andy
Yeah,
didn't reach the end, I guess, of the show and
yeah,
final vows. You both chose to exit the show ahead of that.
yeah.
Are
That's
you happy to talk about that at all, or is that something you'd rather keep
no,
private?
I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, I think that. So we went in. I was just, doing my thing, being myself. I think let me just say. So I mean, okay. Let me just say this. Okay, when I watch the show myself, okay, and I'm watching myself on a show. I've never seen the edit before, nothing. So I'm sitting at home watching it like everybody else for the first time. Yeah, and I was quite like shocked at myself. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a fly on the wall watching myself, and it's like, and possibly not the best of me either, because they're not looking for that. They just want to put in the stuff that's gonna make the edit spicy. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yeah, damn, I'm pretty full on. Is that like how I am? And as a result of that, I got diagnosed with ADHD. Okay, so that was last year at the age of 63, diagnosed with ADHD, and so when I think back, I go, oh yeah, right, okay. So what are some of the traits of that? Well, some of the traits are, you have, people describe it in this way. They say people with ADHD have a Ferrari mind with bicycle brakes.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? It means that as you think something, it comes straight out of your mouth. There's no filter. Now everyone on the show knows it's been filmed, it's going to be edited, so they're controlling it and controlling the impulses, because they know what the game is. Lucinda was brilliant at that. Yeah. Me, however, well, I can't control it. I'm impulsive. And I say stuff, and so. Yeah, and there were two main incidents where I said things that really pissed her off. I think really upset her. The first was the photo ranking. I put her third, okay?
Actually, I have to say, I saw the other night that somebody pulled a Rich and did the same thing,
Exactly the same thing.
and I
Two
think,
people have done it this season.
yeah,
Two people.
and I think it's such a you've got to be honest. But then with the honesty comes the impact of that on somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw that the other night, that someone pulled a Rich.
So John Aitken says, the guys always stuff this up. You always put your partner first. Okay, all right, that's the thing. All right. Maybe after watching 10 seasons, I should have realized that myself, But I was there to be honest, okay? And the way they set it up on a little form, they really asked you to be honest about it. So I'm like, okay, we're talking just purely physical looks here. So I decided I would go with that. And the reason why was because Andy and I were getting on so well. Like, we were so connected and so close. I mean, in my head, she could have put me fucking last. It wouldn't have made any difference. So I'm thinking the same. Okay?
Interesting, because
sorry, I just tapped into a massive insecurity of hers. Yeah, and that was it.
And I think I'd actually possibly be the same if I'm really honest. Like, I'm a pretty confident woman, but if my partner lined up, 10 of our friends, 10 women, and I got ranked at number 4, then I'd think, oh, he's more attractive to those than he is to me. So I can kind of see how it can actually work from both sides, and yeah, and yeah, I think it's not a game I'd want to really play in real life, to be honest.
No, it's like the whole idea of ranking people is not something that's in. I don't do that.
Hmm.
People do it naturally. You meet someone, you kind of rank them. You kind of go, you know what I mean. You kind of go, you know, where do you sit? Do I like you? What sort of a person are you? You know, all that full process goes through that. And there's a lot of labeling. You're a bogan, you're this, you're that, you're that. I never do that. I grew up in South Africa where people were labeled black, white, and inferior. I just don't operate like that. So I shouldn't have done the exercise. Okay, I should have just said, listen, this is not me. So, but anyway, I did it because I was a good boy. You know, I behaved on the show. That was certainly how I approached it. I will just follow the rules and do what they ask. For the first time in my life, actually, really. And I did. I was, because they've got you for 3 months and I just followed the rules and did what I was asked. And like maybe, so that was like 3 weeks in and we lasted like 10, 11 weeks, So you're on MAFS. You've got to stay together, work it through, make it work. But we never recovered from that. And then I felt rejection, massive rejection from her. And I'm very sensitive to that. That's another ADHD trait. Rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria, I've learned. And so when that happens, I get very emotional and very upset and I cry. And that's what happened. And it all just went downhill from there, So it's like, oh God, But definitely I think that the way people are, I mean, there's two versions of a lot of the people on the show. There was definitely two versions of Andy. There was the camera version of her and how she wanted to be seen. And then there was the other version of her back at the ranch, And she was, quite a naughty, mischievous, you know what I mean, kind of lady. And yet on the camera it was all, respect and we don't speak like that. And it's like, oh, really? Okay. You know what I mean? So that was a bit weird. That kind of threw me as well. But as a result, yeah, that's what happened.
Before I bounce to all the questions that all my viewers have sent in, I'm going to ask you about the exit. So the exit is that you both chose to leave the show. And that was that at the commitment ceremony that you both chose to bounce out?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But we had a conversation before that because we had she had an ex-boyfriend for a long time, and he was not very good to her. And so then she made a comment. It was actually in the edit as well, where she said to me, "You are worse than he ever was," kind of thing, Because I was saying to her, listen, I think you might have some trauma from your past relationships, and and that's not a criticism. It's just how it is. I have trauma as well. And then she said, well, that's just, I'm not accepting that. In fact, if anything, you worse than him. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, right. Okay. That's, I think I'm really done here. So, and that was a few days before that final commitment ceremony. And I said to her, listen, we need to leave because the next week was home visits. So I would have then gone, I think I would have gone to the Sunshine Coast to visit her home and all that. And I just thought, no, that I don't want to drag this out anymore. And I think she felt the same as well. So then we just got to the commitment ceremony. We both said, leave. Yeah.
It must be very challenging for a party that wants to leave and the other party says they want to stay and they have to remain for another 7 days. And I'm going to bounce into some questions because I have a few. We've covered the first one. The first thought of you seeing Andrea at the altar because I thought she was hot. You did too.
She was hot, beautiful, gorgeous. Yeah, I was almost in tears. I was just so because that's how I react.
So happy.
I'm very emotional.
Now the edits. This is a biggie. This came in from multiple people. Edits. Do producers create villains from the get-go, or are some people pure fuckwits?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. And I think the truth about the edit is, so I worked this out, that I was filmed over those, I was there for like 10, 11 weeks. I was filmed for probably about 200 hours.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, across the whole thing. and the amount of airtime that I got across all 36 episodes, same as everybody, I worked out to be about, just me, solid, but it worked out to be about 90 minutes, okay? So you do your maths, 90 minutes out of 200 hours, it's like, no, sorry, it was like, sorry, not 90 minutes, I think a total of 3 hours airtime, okay?
Wow.
So that works out to be 1.5%. So like, imagine they film your life, okay, for 3 months, and then they take 1.5% of what they film, and that's what goes to air. So what do you want to see in that 1.5%, Ali? What do you want them? What do you don't? You know what I mean? That's what happens. So they pick that of everybody, and then what they do is they also do things. So you might say something to the camera when you're speaking to the camera one-on-one, but they'll use that voice and pretend it's part of another conversation. You know what I'm saying?
So did you get the whole recording, or did you just get what appeared on TV?
Oh, just what appeared on TV.
Okay, so all the rest of it you don't have access to.
Oh, nothing at all. I wish I did, because they filmed a lot of me dancing around the pool. I used to dance around the pool every day. But they were down there filming it, and I wish I had that footage. But anyway, it's all in the scrap pile,
And
it's
so
1.5% that they decided that's what we're going to go to.
That's actually amazing. I had no idea that was the proportion of actually what went to air. What is something about filming MAFS that viewers would be absolutely shocked to learn? Now, the tense that you've referenced, to me, that was pretty like, I had no idea that happened. What else would you say that viewers would be shocked to learn about the filming process behind the scenes?
Well, just the way they control it. I mean, when you're in your apartment, we had curfews. You have to be in your apartment by 9 o'clock every night.
Oh, wow.
Yep. If you wanted to go to the gym, you had to ask permission. So they made sure that nobody else was in the gym at the same time. So you weren't going to talk to them. So it was literally your life and your time is in their hands. Everything. You don't know, let's say it's a Tuesday night and it's like 9 o'clock and you sitting there, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's on the cards, what's on the agenda. You don't know where you have to be at what time. And then you'll suddenly get a text or an email and it says, okay, tomorrow, you know what I mean? So you don't know, literally your life is in their hands. You don't know what you're doing from one day to the next and what time and where and all that. So, and then they keep that curfew on you, and it's just like, wow,
So tell me about swapping phone numbers with other guys and girls on the show. Does that happen?
It happens. It's not meant to happen,
but it does happen.
I had no one's number. The only number I had was Andy's.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't play that game.
Okay.
They were all texting each other all the time. They all knew stuff that I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on half the time. You know what I mean? I just wasn't. Honestly, I wasn't that interested in their relationships. I don't want to go to a dinner party and talk about everybody else's boring fucking relationships, and their dramas and their little scandals and things, but that's all you can talk about. So I really was quite disengaged at the dinner parties for that reason alone. It's like, really, especially after about 6 weeks, I was just so sick and tired of all their bullshit and dramas, like, oh my God,
So was there a moment when you thought, what the fuck have I done coming on this show?
No, I think, well, there sort of was, I mean, when I left the show, I remember when we exited, and then we both said leave, and then the next morning I got a cab and went home, and then that evening went out for dinner with some friends and that, and I just burst into tears with relief. It was so stressful. There was so much anxiety and kind of tension around it, and because everyone's, while they're filming, everyone's aware of themselves primarily. You weren't there, like how am I going to look? How am I going to look? And so this sort of comes up, and it's interesting how many of the cast really became buddies and sucked up to some of the producers. That happened a lot, you know. I didn't do that game and became buddies with each other. So there was, you know, and obviously if you've got a whole lot of buddies on the show, when it gets to dinner parties and commitment ceremonies even, and people are giving feedback and all that, and people have got your back, you know. So people were playing that game. Andy used to make little gifts and send them to everybody, you know, for example. That was her way of, you know, because she likes to give little presents and trinkets and things like that. And she would give it to all the other cast members, you know, as a way of kind of, you know, like, you know, it was just like, you know, the second half was really, really hard. I went in with good intentions. It just went pear-shaped, and then it became really hard. I also got sick. I had pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So when we went away to Byron Bay for the retreat and all that week I had pneumonia. And I was fucked, man. But I still showed up and all that, but I was really not well at all. You know, I was very, 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 very ill, which is a bit of a bummer. And then you leave, and then like a month, 6 weeks later, there was a reunion. You got to go back for another week. That was like, terrible.
So what happens? What happens at reunions? So because there have been some reunions when some participants haven't actually reappeared.
Yeah, well, this season apparently a whole lot of them don't reappear at the reunion. Everybody was. There was this one person who didn't turn up at our reunion. The big surprise at our reunion was that Jono and Ellie were together. Remember, they sort of walked in. They during their time off the show in that 5-6 week period, they had connected, and they were now a couple, and they're still going out. They're still together. So that was the big thing in our reunion. Was like, oh my God, look at that, you know.
Yeah, no one saw that coming. And that was actually an authentic match post the show, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was, yeah.
And so I know that you're in contact with several other contestants from the show. Have you built some solid friendships that you can see yourself having for your lifetime from the show? None. Oh, we're down to none. Oh, fuck. We were higher than that about 6 months ago.
I speak to a few, and I mean, Ben's in town. I catch up to them and have a chat and drink and whatever, you know. But it's like, there's no, not my scene, man. It's just not, you know, no.
So you have actually, however, met a wonderful woman post the show that you're in a relationship with now.
Yes.
And you know, I really believe in the divinity of timing, and maybe if you hadn't been on the show, you wouldn't have actually crossed paths with her. And so
I think so. What happens is when you're on the show, you're just going along, and people follow you, all that shit. When you leave the show, and everyone now knows that you're not with your wife anymore, the floodgates open, mate. And all these women slipped into my DMs. Okay, hi. Yeah, right. Oh my God, you know. So that sort of happens. So for a while, I was like, oh damn, okay, shit. So I met a few of them around, you know, people who live more locally, like, you know, I mean, lots of them interstate, and yeah, right, you know, but people live locally, and the good thing about that was, and what was different about, so I went on dates again, okay, but what was different about those dates were that from my dates before MAFS, I'd rock up being me, overshare, you know, laugh the way I do, be the way I am. And I kind of got the vibe that women were just like running a mile going, who is this crazy guy? But the women that slipped into my DMs post MAFS, they knew who I was. When we went out on dates and stuff, they were like, you know, I could just be myself because they knew, and that's what they liked.
So
it's quite interesting that, you know, some people saw me on MAFS and thought I was a complete asshole, okay? Some people saw me on MAFS and thought I was the most wonderful guy, okay? So the women who slipped into my DMs are the ones that thought I was wonderful. So when I finally turned up to meet them, they were like, here he is, this great guy. You know, I couldn't do a thing wrong, you know? So that was quite different, and that was quite affirming, actually.
Can we circle back to, I guess, you know, self-reflection? I think in everybody, the older we get, the more powerful it becomes, because without it, You can't change what you don't know. And so you referenced that looking at yourself and some of your behaviour on the show
Yeah.
had you dive a little deeper into some behaviour that was historical, and that led you on a journey towards tapping in and ultimately finding a diagnosis of ADHD.
Correct. Yeah.
Can you, are you happy to share that? Because I think
Yeah.
that's another conversation that is really topical, actually, because so many people are diagnosed with ADHD. People feel ashamed by it. I don't give a flying fuck whether you've got ADHD, what you've got. Being a good person is what really I care about. But you went through a deeply personal journey on MAFS, and then you go and want to become a better person for yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember a message that landed from you, and it was that you'd been diagnosed with ADHD, and it was like the end of the world. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're the same person that you were yesterday and the month before. Nothing's changed.
Well,
it's just a label.
Well, being diagnosed is quite interesting because it's a mixture of grief and relief at the same time. Adults have only been diagnosed with ADHD. It's quite a recent thing. It's sort of like 2008 was the first time when adult ADHD diagnosis was actually given, by the American Psychiatry, whatever the hell. Because ADHD was always a thing for kids. It was a kids thing. Yeah, and it was mostly boys in the classroom setting.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and if you haven't grown out of it as an adult, well, that's just because it's a character flaw and you're a weak person and all that. What is in fact, it never leaves you. The ADHD never leaves you. It's always there. It's actually a difference in your brain structure. It's different in your dopamine levels, and in fact, the people who are least diagnosed are adult women. Because adult women tend to present differently. Men tend to present as impulsive and hyperactive, whereas women are more inattentive. So they're likely to daydream and things like that. So the signs aren't that obvious. And a lot of women, when they're going to get diagnosed with ADHD, will say, oh, this is what I'm feeling, these are my symptoms. And let's say they in their early 50s, the doctor will likely say, oh, that's menopause. You know what I'm saying? So it gets appropriated as being something else. So women are the most underdiagnosed adult women of ADHD. So anyway, I went to a therapist just to talk about my experience. And the therapist said to me, have you been tested for ADHD? And I was like, no. Like, what do you mean? It's like, what? I thought it was just a loosely used phrase. Someone who's overexcited and a bit exuberant is like, oh, you got ADHD. Like, I didn't know it was a clinical condition such as I do now. So this woman said this to me. So I spoke to my ex-girlfriend. I said to her, do you think I have ADHD? And she was like, Rich, I've been saying it to you for 5 years. So okay. So I saw the psychiatrist and then got diagnosed. So the beginning, when I first got, I think it's really important to get diagnosed so you know who you are and what you're dealing with. At first I was really distraught about it, actually. And there's still a part of me, if I knew I had ADHD when I was 30, I would have prepared myself differently. I would have prepared myself to suck up a corporate career and do it properly, whereas I couldn't do that. So I had potentially a very big corporate career in advertising, but I got too emotional. I took things too personally. I couldn't last, Now, that's ADHD. If I was known that before and say, mate, this is what's going to happen. So these are the strategies. Okay. Same with being a parent. As a father, I didn't give my children the security and the safety and the boundaries that young children need. So for me, that's like being a great dad. Hey, we can be free and we can do all this crazy shit, And I did some mad crazy things with them, took massive risks and all that. But particularly my older two kids, as they got older, they've gone, no, that was messed up, Dad. So things like that, I would have approached differently, and I would have approached my life differently with kind of a toolkit of stuff. Saying, okay, I've got this. Now let me go into and embrace life, managing this in a more effective way. I had no idea, and I was just trying to do my best, And one of the things, so ADHD also, it's an executive functioning problem, I find that quite weird. It's executive functioning. It's like, the whole notion of being an executive and making executive decisions and all that. That's just like so fucking not me. And a massive part of executive functioning is finances and money. Yeah, obviously, and planning and all that. Well, I'm just a walking money disaster. Okay? It's like I have a bucket, a leaky bucket. Whatever I earn, if it's that much, if it's that much, it all leaks out. I end up giving most of it away as well. I'm super generous. When I got money, I just spend on everybody. Like I don't have a lot myself, but I don't, it's just an area that I have. So given that, way back, my wife of 28 years, she should have been managing the finances. You know what I mean? She should have been in control of the money because she's actually quite good with money. Not me. Putting me in charge of money is like putting the fox in charge of the hens,
I hate to tell you this, but I don't think you would have let her be in charge of the money somehow,
No?
which is possibly why you were in charge of the money. And so tell me, post-diagnosis, have you been, are you on any medication?
Yeah, I am on dexamphetamine, Dexies.
Yeah. And so what have you...
I take them when I need them. I don't take them all the time.
Yeah. So what does the medication do for you?
So I'll give you an example. So I'm working on a drop shipping business. Okay. The branding, their branding, creative, side of it, and messaging and that's great. I love all that stuff. But there's so much back end technical stuff, finances, connecting this to that, how this all, it's a mind fuck. Yeah. I would not have been able to do that without taking the Dexies. So I can pop 2 Dexies. It's like, okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to work on my thing, and I'll sit there for 6 hours and just solidly do a whole lot of stuff. Task that I would normally hate doing and avoid doing, but the Dexies allow me to focus on it and get that done.
Wow.
For example, so that's quite amazing. But if I don't have to do that, I don't have to work like that. Then I don't have to take them. I don't have to take them all the time. You know what I'm saying? The other time when I take them is in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, also a very ADHD thing, I'm generally very tired. I'm a terrible morning person, and I wake up, even if I slept 8-9 hours, I'm like exhausted, So I drag my ass in here. I always go, put on the TV, what's the news and all that. Whereas now, the first thing I do is I pop a Dexy, about 15 minutes later, woo! I'm fucking up and awake,
Yeah.
And that's good. So I can restart my day and get going. So I use it like that. And my psychiatrist described it as something you have in your toolbox and you'll work out, how to use it and when's best for you. Don't take it too late in the day because then I can't sleep at night until 2-3 a.m. But that's also a very ADHD thing as well. I mean, I'm that sort of guy that would, like, Moggy would come over. And, she'd go to bed at like 11 or something. And I'd be dancing around the lounge at 2 a.m., on my own. I just do stuff like that. And that's also quite common as well. But, everybody else has gone to sleep and the person with ADHD is sort of awake, prancing around the house, all these things that I've learned about my behaviors that it's just like, that's really interesting. So I'm actually writing a book about it. And my book's called A Crazy Guy Living in a Normal World.
You told me about this last week, and it sounds absolutely amazing. And I'll be one of the first to actually buy the book.
Because I think every adult needs to get diagnosed. If they might have it or they think they could have it, I think they should get diagnosed. And I think it's ultimately beneficial because then you can manage it better. You can actually manage yourself better and love yourself better and go, actually, that is who I am. And right now, I'm actually feeling quite like that is who I am. And if I've got people in my life who don't want to see me because because they judge me, because they say I've got a personality deficit and I'm a child and I've never grown up and all that stuff, all that I've copped my whole life, including from my own family, my closest family people. Well, now it's like, well, fuck you, like honestly, if you're going to judge me like that, this is me. This is how I am, and that's okay,
And I love the fact that you are just so open, and your tagline of just unfuck yourself is just absolutely fabulous. But I have got got 4 more questions, buddy.
Yeah,
and love to hear your answer on those.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice in your 63 years of life you've ever received?
The best piece of advice. Oh, wow.
I suspect it's going to be more recent, actually, in your last 18 months of journey and maybe your
Yeah,
diagnosis.
yeah.
Do you want to circle back to that and do another question?
Yeah, I can't just circle back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with three people, anyone in the world, who would those three people be?
People who are alive or dead? People
Well,
who are alive.
you can't bring a fucking dead person back to the dinner table.
No, no.
So well, let's run with the living.
The living. The three. I would have. Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I would have dinner with. Fucking hell.
Definitely Ali Bond.
Getting bored. Who would I have dinner with? I hate these sort of questions, Ali. These like I guess I'd be interested to have dinner with Donald Trump.
Actually, so would I.
Yeah.
So would I.
I was never a Trump fan in his first tenure, and even now until the election, I was never supporting him. But there seems to be something a bit interesting about him, in terms of shaking it up. So it'd be Trump and Elon Musk. Okay, Elon Musk, I've always followed and been a massive fan of for his businesses and his innovation. I'm less a fan of him now, given his this right wing kind of social media views that he has, and it's been like, right, so that maybe he might not get an invitation to the table, but certainly he would have been there before. And Elon Musk and who else? Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and it's got to be some actress. I like Demi Moore.
Great choice. Great
I
choice.
love Demi Moore. I've always loved her. Elmo's Fine, all those films. She's about my age. When I was 19, 20, 21, 22. She was my crush, my Hollywood crush.
Just my crush too.
The way she treats her husband Bruce, or ex-husband Bruce, who's basically got, he's very, very ill and all that. It's quite an amazing story, and so I'm a bit of a fan there. Yeah.
Grand. What's a book or movie that has significantly impacted your life?
Oh yeah, wow. There's quite a few movies and books. I mean, movies are American Beauty. Did you ever see that? With Kevin Spacey. So when that came out, 1999, like he was about 40, middle-aged 40 in the film, as I was, and so his wake-up call in that film was a jolt for me. It gave me a kick in my ass.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right. And I decided then, so I was 40, and I decided to myself, I'm halfway through my life. Let's say I'm going to live till 80, and I'm going to spend the next half living my life for me. And that's when I left the corporate world, and I did all these things. I did some radical things, and but I still stayed married for a long time after that, and I had my kids and brought them up and all that. But that film. But the book that has the biggest impact on my life is The Count of Monte Cristo. And The Count of Monte Cristo is written by Alexander Dumas. It's about that fucking thick. And I read it, I think 3 times before I was 20. So I was a student of literature. I studied English at university. I did a master's in English and philosophy and stuff like that. Here in Sydney, actually, New South Wales University. So that's sort of my area. The Count of Monte Cristo is about a guy who gets imprisoned wrongfully on the eve of his wedding. In fact, no, the night of his wedding, in fact, by his 3 close friends. And he ends up on the island, in this prison. He gets out. There's a secret treasure on this island called Monte Cristo. And he arrives in society as this billionaire, okay? And no one knows. This is like in, in Paris in sort of, 1850, no, even earlier, 1830. And he arrives, and he extracts his revenge on the people that fucked him over. And I'm a Scorpio, and maybe this, I don't know. And I just something about that. I just love that. I love those revenge stories.
Oh, God.
And I think there's a part of me that's a little bit like that. I don't like to think, but I think, maybe I'm a little bit vengeful.
There you go. At least you're authentic. And look, I'm going to come back, and just go back to the best piece of advice you've ever received.
I suppose the best piece of advice I remember. I remember being at a talk given by Tom Peters. You know Tom Peters? He wrote The Pursuit of Excellence. He's an American. I don't know if I'm sure he's alive still. He wrote a lot of books and he was a speaker and all that. Ex-McKinsey, okay? So very professional, okay? So I struggle in the professional world, working, even though it was advertising, I worked in advertising, but I had to wear jackets and suits and it was all professional and you speak a certain way and all that. Now I went to listen to Tom, and Tom was just so rude and so out there. So fucking, he had no filter. He literally unfucked himself. He was the unfuck yourself guy. And I was about 30, the early 30s. And I was like, damn, you can actually be, a serious business player and a serious person in this world and actually fucking swear and be yourself and talk like a normal person. Yeah. So that gave me permission to be like that more, rightfully or wrongfully so. So I think that thing is just, the people wear masks, Ali, we wear a mask, so what mask am I wearing today? Oh, it's a big work day. I'm going to wear my professional mask, and I'll speak in a certain way, Fuck that bullshit, man. Just be yourself,
Absolutely.
So Tom didn't give me a quote about that, but the way he showed up and the talk he gave, I remember that very clearly, and it was just like, wow. So that was a bit of a moment for me, for sure.
Yeah, I'm a real biggie on be yourself. You can only be yourself. Everybody else is taken. But look, we're rounding out a really epic hour, and I am so grateful for you to be, I guess, so authentic and so open in your sharing of your journey with MAFS AU. You were a great contestant to watch. And I guess I'm going to just round this out with what's coming up next for Rich. Any more reality TV shows?
Well, no. There was people saying, "Oh, you might get approached for the old Golden Bachelor," and I was like, "You're right. That's not going to happen."
No, I got approached. I've actually been approached twice, not to be the Bachelorette, the Golden Bachelorette, but I've been approached twice since October to be a contestant on the current Australia one.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I wouldn't do that again. So what's for me? I'm just I've started this year pretty hard. I'm out there. I really want to get my speaking business up to where it was before COVID, basically, because since then it's never quite recovered. And I do branding work as well. So I've got some branding projects and all that, but the speaking I want to focus on. That's my main focus. I'm working on the brand, on the speaking. The book that I'm writing will obviously feed into that at some point, and help that as well. I've actually done 2 books already. And the books, it sort of helps with that and just clarify your thinking and gives you extra credibility. So there's that, there's the speaking. And then I'm trying to set up and get going a drop shipping business. I mean, people are doing this and it just seems to be the thing, so I'm really invested in that. It's like a side income thing, but I need to do it. Like I've got nothing to live on. When I'm 80, how am I going to fucking live?
And you know what? You're the epitome of age is no barrier. And so just going to say a massive thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And to all my my viewers, subscribers, hit that button, follow me, follow my journey, and remember to love your life and own your journey.